global friends. In today's session, we're going to talk about another topic that is going to be quite important for your IELTS preparation, whether it is about the skill of writing or speaking. The topic of cities and urban areas is a very highly desired one. So, in today's class, I'm going to tell you a lot of ideas about this topic. So, the first title that we're going to start working on is Reason for Urbanization. The first one, people move to cities in search of job opportunities. So, one of the main reasons that you can say people try to move into cities would be the idea of finding better job opportunities. And that is completely reasonable. Cities offer greater employment possibilities and a higher standard of living. Very beautifully, we've used two very nice and related ideas about this topic employment possibilities and a higher standard of living. Some countries offer a better and higher standard of living, especially Scandinavian countries, I believe so. And here you can see the verb is offer. It's a very nice verb that can be used in that regard, as well as other things like give and provide. But the point here is that when you use offer or provide, it can be a better option compared to give because they are more formal. And what we intend to use is usually like the more classic or formal option because it's like writing and we want to sound academic. And in IELTS speaking for part three, especially, it's a better idea in order to try to use these kind of verbs and words in general so that we can show the examiner that we have the ability of using the formal language. People migrate to cities from the countryside. Migrate. Remember, when you use countryside, it should be followed by the. So the countryside all the time. Traditional activities like farming need fewer workers nowadays. So this is another reason that can be related to the reason for urbanization. So we don't need a lot of workers these days. Moving on to the negatives of this, let's say, event, this incidents, negatives of city life. Life in cities has their drawbacks, of course. Everything in this world does. The cost of living is higher than in rural areas. Yeah, that is one of the highlighted issues. The cost of living, how much money you need to spend on groceries, shopping, transportation, everything can be quite higher. Some people do not manage to find work, even though we think the number of job opportunities would be way higher. Sometimes you cannot find any because the competition is accordingly higher as well. Housing is usually much more expensive. Yeah, the other problem is finding a good house and, of course, the price that is reasonable because you've got a job, you need to just manage your expenses. At the same time, the housing needs to be quite affordable. Homelessness and poverty are common in cities. That is definitely a very key important factor because in big cities you definitely see a lot of poor people, the homeless and stuff like that. But when you move to the countryside and less busy places, the number is quite lower and sometimes there is none. There is a gap between the rich and the poor. So that makes sense as well. The city itself usually is divided in two parts, the poor side and the rich side. Life in cities can be extremely stressful because of the expenses that we've been talking about. Everybody is in hurry all the time. They're so stressed out. There are problems like traffic congestion and crime. So the level and rate of crime and traffic congestion cannot be compared to that of the smaller cities and towns at all. Cities lack a sense of community. So that sense of belonging in city is almost very rare and scarce because of the fact that people are not that much related. They're coming from different parts of the world, different cities, and now they don't know anybody, or their circle of friend is really, really just close and not that much of a great importance. And that's why you do not see that much of the feeling of belonging and community. So it is another thing that is very, very vivid as a difference. People do not even know their neighbors. So maybe if you live in a big city, you can relate to that. You've been just meeting that person who lives nearby, or just your door to door neighbor, but you've got no communications whatsoever. So people really just have no interest in one's life. Cities are sometimes described as concrete jungles. This is a very complicated and complex idea that seems to be much more of philosophy. But anyway, you can say cities are sometimes described. This is a passive structure that has been used here, are described as concrete jungles. So concrete means something here, it means something that you can feel, it is tangible, it's not like abstract. You can feel it, you can see that. And jungles, clear, right? So it means that it's like definite jungle because of the chaos, because of the population, the crime, anything that you can relate to in that regard. So, moving on to the next topic, we have pedestrian areas. Pedestrian areas would be referring to those areas where pedestrians or those people who walk can use. Pedestrian zones in city centers can improve the local environment. Some countries and some cities around the world, like Italy, Spain, France, are very famous for their thoughtful pedestrian zones because they are so beautifully designed and they are mostly surrounded by cafes and bars, and they are very beautiful avenues, and people really enjoy walking on those pedestrian zones. Banning cars encourages people to walk or cycle. I'm sure that you've seen those places in the city center where cars are banned in order to encourage people to use walk or cycle, and of course avoid any kind of traffic congestion. And sometimes because it's like a very historical place, they want to avoid any kind of destruction in the long run. So that's why using car has been banned in many important places. So here we say banning cars encourages. So remember the fact that whenever you start your sentence with the use of a verb plus ing, like here, banning, then the other verb, encourage, needs to be in singular format because you are referring to that very one thing. So it is considered to be a singular subject. Many European cities have built bicycle lanes. Yeah, that makes sense. So we have very specific place where bicycles can just move and use, which is quite different from the part that pedestrians can use, so that there wouldn't be any incidents of crash, accident, or any kind of danger. Dependence on cars is linked to health problems like obesity. Dependence on cars. So when you start your sentence like that, you need to use a noun, dependence. And then you need to use the preposition on. Dependence on cars is linked to. Here we've got another passive format is linked to, is related to health problems like obesity. Obesity is a very nice word when it comes to talking about being overweight and fat, but in a more formal and better way. People who walk or cycle regularly are generally healthier. So, if you remember what I said in the previous sessions, you might consider the fact that we should be using more of adjectives and adverbs in both writing and speaking to sound more like a native speaker. So here, people who walk or cycle regularly are generally healthier. So you have two adverbs, regularly and then generally, and then healthier, the comparative form of healthy, healthier, compared to those who don't walk or cycle. But we don't say that, but it's clear. Pedestrian areas are safer and more attractive for both residents and tourists. Yeah, so for both of those categories of people who usually are considered in the city, which are like the residents and tourists, pedestrian areas can make a huge difference. Okay, so that is about today's session. So I hope that it was quite useful for you. Please practice these ideas, and you can, of course, comment the other ideas which are related to urbanization, city life, pedestrian areas, so on and so forth. And please tell me about your own city or village or the suburb, wherever you live. Just write about the differences that you have seen in a big city and your city and just whether you like the one that you are residing in or you would like to immigrate or move into a bigger or smaller city. Thank you very much. Do not forget to subscribe and like and share this video. Thank you so much. Bye for now.